Rick and Morty almost featured a scene so graphically disturbing that Adult Swim executives probably had emergency meetings about network standards. Let's talk about the deleted scenes that were deemed too controversial even for late-night cable, and storylines so wild they could have changed the entire direction of the series. Everyone remembers the episode where Rick and Morty escape to another dimension after accidentally mutating their entire reality into praying mantis creatures. That backyard burial scene was already dark enough to haunt viewers for weeks, but the original version took graphic content to a completely different level. The aired scene shows Rick and Morty finding their alternate dead selves in the garage, leading to that disturbing moment of literally burying their own bodies. Heavy stuff, right? The deleted version shows Rick methodically collecting individual body parts scattered around the garage like he's doing inventory at the world's most disturbing warehouse. Picture Rick casually picking up his own severed arm, tossing his alternate brain into a cardboard box, and humming while gathering various organs like he's collecting spare parts for a science project. The creators realized that fully animating this scene would cross from dark comedy into pure nightmare fuel. Sometimes even Rick and Morty knows when an idea needs to stay on the storyboard. Remember Rick's legendary freestyle that crashed the alien computer system during their interrogation? That smooth-talking moment where his pure genius overloaded their technology? Well, the original script had Morty dropping the beats instead, and his lyrics were so aggressively nonsensical, they literally broke reality. The deleted scene featured Morty spitting bars like everyone's a smooth dog, yeah, gotta watch for the vacuum cleaner, followed by increasingly random wordplay that defied all logic. His finishing move? And now you're the size of the Empire State Building. System crash. Mission accomplished. This scene got cut because it shifted focus from Rick's intellectual superiority to Morty's accidental brilliance. Can't have the anxious sidekick accidentally proving he might have hidden talents that don't involve portal gun disasters. The creators needed Rick to remain the undisputed genius of the duo, even when it comes to impromptu alien rap battles. Remember the interdimensional cable episode where Jerry and Beth watch their alternate selves living successful, separate lives? The aired version ends with them realizing they belong together despite everything, creating one of the show's genuinely heartwarming moments. The deleted scene? Rick walks in and literally shoots alternate Jerry with a freeze gun, watching him shatter into pieces. Just as Jerry's having his big romantic revelation about eternal love transcending dimensions, Rick casually strolls through the door and turns him into frozen Jerry fragments scattered across the floor. It's like the writers asked themselves, what would completely destroy this emotional breakthrough? And then animated the answer. They obviously scrapped this because it would have undermined one of the few times the show actually rewards human connection. Sometimes even Rick and Morty needs moments where love wins, and having Rick randomly vaporize Jerry would have sent a very different message about family relationships and personal growth. Everyone remembers the giant floating man scene and that clever shadow joke over the Rocky Mountains. The subtle humor worked because it let viewers' imaginations fill in the uncomfortable details. The original version abandoned subtlety completely in favor of the most aggressively obvious visual gag possible. Instead of tasteful shadows and implied imagery, the deleted scene showed a massive anatomical battering ram plowing through the landscape like nature's most inappropriate drilling equipment. The terrified lumberjack wasn't running from mysterious shadows. He was fleeing for his life from what can only be described as a geographic disaster of unprecedented proportions. The aired version succeeds because it trusts audience intelligence and uses suggestion over explicit content. The deleted version succeeded at making everyone wish they could unsee what they just witnessed. Sometimes the funniest jokes work because they make you think, not because they assault your retinas with traumatic clarity. One of the strangest deleted interdimensional cable segments featured an alternate universe Jerry Seinfeld dealing with what he called Mexican bones discovered under his house. His stand-up routine involved complaining about people burying bodies in his basement because their bones were too tough for practical purposes. This scene was deleted faster than you could say legal department emergency meeting because it managed to be racist, reference cannibalism, and have absolutely nothing resembling actual comedy. Even by Rick and Morty's standards for pushing boundaries, this managed to cross multiple lines that probably shouldn't exist in the same dimension. The fact that Justin Roiland's Seinfeld impression sounded more like Morty having an existential crisis just made the entire bit even more uncomfortable. Sometimes deleted scenes stay deleted because everyone involved realizes they've accidentally created something that belongs in a vault marked never again. Before we continue, smash that subscribe button or things will get worse in your life. The most perfectly Rick and Morty deleted scene involves exactly what you'd expect from their relationship dynamic. Rick specifically warns Morty not to touch the shelf because it's positioned next to the thing. Naturally, Morty immediately touches the thing instead of following basic instructions. The predictable result? A full-sized dinosaur materializes in Rick's garage and begins systematically destroying everything while Rick screams about Morty's complete inability to follow simple directions. The scene includes all the classic elements: scientific mishaps, property damage, Rick's verbal abuse, and prehistoric creatures causing suburban chaos. This scene was probably cut for time constraints rather than content concerns, which is honestly tragic because it perfectly captures the show's core relationship dynamic. Rick creates dangerous technology, warns Morty about obvious hazards. Morty does exactly the opposite. Chaos ensues, and Rick questions every life choice that led to this moment. One of the most intriguing scrapped episode concepts involved Rick inventing a device called the Bookalyzer that would allow them to literally enter written stories. The plot would have trapped them inside a terrible novel Jerry wrote during his younger years, presumably featuring Jerry as the heroic protagonist of his own badly written adventure story. Imagine Rick being forced to navigate a fictional world where Jerry exhibits competence, bravery, and success, while delivering increasingly sarcastic commentary about plot holes, character development, and Jerry's questionable writing abilities. This concept eventually evolved into the Mad Max Wasteland episode, proving that sometimes abandoning your original idea leads to better results. This could have been Rick and Morty's definitive take on metafiction, complete with Rick's brutal literary criticism and Jerry's defensive explanations about his creative choices. The comedy potential was enormous, but apparently, post-apocalyptic vehicle combat scenes won out over deconstructing Jerry's literary ambitions. Morty's mind-blowers revealed Rick's habit of erasing traumatic memories, but dozens of additional scenarios never made it to the final episode. These included Morty as an elderly man helping his granddaughter with homework, potentially showing his evolution into a Rick-like figure across generations. Other unused concepts included Rick falling in love with a fire truck, something mysteriously labeled cake tears that writers refused to explain, and Rick and Morty dressed as terrified parakeets performing in shock collar concerts. There was also a complete script for Thank You Planet, where Morty accidentally destroys an entire civilization by thanking a bartender on a world where gratitude doesn't exist culturally. The Thank You Planet concept perfectly embodies Rick and Morty's ability to find universe-ending consequences in the simplest human interactions. Sometimes basic politeness can trigger societal collapse, especially when Morty's cultural ignorance gets involved. During Season 5 development, Dan Harmon shared glimpses of their brainstorming sessions by posting photos of sticky notes covered with potential episode concepts. These mysterious titles included Bark Nadeau, The People's Basketball Court, and Rick Discovers the 11th Commandment. Each sticky note represents a complete adventure we'll never witness, covering everything from sports comedy to religious satire to concepts so abstract they might not translate into actual episodes. The fact that Rick discovering an additional biblical commandment didn't make production suggests either scheduling conflicts or concerns about religious controversy. These behind-the-scenes glimpses reveal how many creative ideas get generated and discarded during the writing process. For every episode that reaches broadcast, there are probably dozens of concepts that remain forever trapped on office supplies and whiteboard fragments. If you are curious about more deleted scenes, be sure to check out our other videos, where you will find even more exciting content like this.